Alright guys, you're gonna have to bear with me because I have been sick for the past week, but regardless, we're gonna do this thing because today I want to talk about our Osmo Pocket. Our Osmo Pocket is dead, and we can talk about why in a bit. First though, I would like to go over why I already miss it, but also why I think we are just gonna have to wait for an Osmo Pocket 2. As you've probably heard a few times by now, I help Rob with, well, a little or a lot of everything. But one of the bigger jobs is running a lot of the video that we shoot, and as you may have noticed, the past year has seen an ever so steady climb in production quality as Rob and I start to implement new standards for this channel with the goal of bringing it to something that we are even more proud to be behind. This involves more shoots, more locations, higher quality audio and video, more travel, more people to collaborate with, etc. And what does all that mean? More BTS. More! I mean, it's 2020, so I don't even want to see your scene anymore. I just want to see behind it. And to try and meet those demands, I picked up the DJI Ronin SC, which I love dearly, and we'll have some fun videos on in the future, so caress that sub button with one hand and the bell with the other if you enjoy fun stuff. But while the SC is a feature beast and ignorantly light for how strong it is and how solid it is, it's still, for somebody who likes to pack just one bag, a lot. And so with a handful of big events and trips coming up, I decided to give the Osmo Pocket a second chance. And to clarify, Rob has owned the Osmo Pocket since about a couple of months after its release. But due to a number of issues with software and even hardware, it quickly became a seldom used device for us. Since then, however, issues like spotty autofocus and limited resolution options have been remedied with updates, and combining this with a better understanding of what it is capable of when you attach a smartphone to it suddenly made this a staple for us and this channel. Real quick recap, the Osmo Pocket is a sort of all-in-one 3-axis gimbal and camera sporting a 1 by 2.3 inch sensor and a fixed f2 lens. It can shoot up to 4K 60 and has a whole slew of features from time lapses to motion lapses, panoramas, and one of my all-time favorites, subject tracking. And I'd already mentioned how software updates have helped it grow, but that other big boost, for me at least, was finally attaching it to a smartphone with this slick contraption here. Insert pocket, insert phone. And it is exactly this setup that I took to New York City last October for Photo Plus, where we did a handful of shoots, connected with some companies, and Justin and Rob even knocked out several interviews for the High ISO podcast, which should be out soon. So search High ISO podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, if you think you'd enjoy a deep dive on the business and minutia of photography. But let's jump into a few things that I really enjoyed about the DJI Osmo Pocket. First and foremost is DJI's trademark ease of use. You can get really good at this thing with just a little bit of practice, but regardless, you can get up and running almost instantly. And true to its name, mobility is really key here because you can seriously toss this in any pants pocket. And one size perk that I didn't foresee was the reaction of passerbys and people in the wild when we're just running and gunning with this thing, because it's so small that it really helps avoid those awkward stares like directly into the camera from people as you like pass them and they're just kind of looking through the souls of your viewers. Hashtag small click energy. Also, the video quality on this thing, like straight out of camera, the 4K clarity and color is honestly great. It's great. Not to mention there's also a D-Cine-like profile, which with a tiny bit of finagling actually gets even better results still. And it even saves proxies of the videos that you shoot on your smartphone. And that kind of leads me right into some concerns that I still have with it. And I originally wrote up a list of things I didn't like in the Pocket, but honestly, after some time, I feel like I've begun to consider how cutting edge this device was and want to instead frame this as things that I think we really ought to see in an Osmo Pocket 2. Now, I know I just praised the feature expansion of adding the phone, but as soon as you are without it or require something the phone doesn't provide, then the accessory game starts to get expensive and far less fun. Do you want tactile control of the pan or tilt? $65. ND filters? $55. Want to add an external microphone? $40. Believe me, I fully understand that at this size, there needed to be some triage on abilities, and DJI could have forewent without these entirely and still had a decent product on their hands. But the reality is that once you add all of these pieces into the device, I still believe that you're going to be left with a product whose footprint and price tag are still justified for what it provides to you. So the idea of upgrading the size to an Osmo Jinko Jeans Pocket and then even adding a price tag of like $150 really doesn't dissuade me from interest in it. But at this point, now we're kind of treading into the waters of, are you marketing for a handful of pros, or are you marketing to an ocean of amateurs and hobbyists, and who's buying more of these things? So I totally get that too. Regardless, the last request I want to touch on comes from that nifty ability to hold proxies on the phone that it is attached to. And while that's neat, it leaves me with a strong desire for a way to either send this full res video that I'm taking through to the phone, even if it was at the expense of a lower res monitor while recording, or at the very least, if there was a way for me to wirelessly transfer these clips to the phone via DJI's app. Because honestly, as they say, with small footprint comes great losability. Which brings me to this sad sight. Not too long ago, I went to Peru with Rob and a friend / travel junkie, Chad Wu. And on this trip, we dedicated a little bit of time to filming with the Pocket in the hopes of really putting it to the test. And the good news is it performed very well and was precisely as unobtrusive as I'd hoped. The bad news is that when I came home after about 12 days and 70 plus miles of jungle, canyon, and mountain hiking, I didn't fully unpack my bag for a couple of days, and in that time, my dearest pup Wilma decided to eviscerate it, including chewing the butt end of the SD card off. And while some of the footage was backed up, some of the footage was only saved in those proxies on my phone. Needless to say, her treat allowance was greatly diminished that week. And for full clarity, I do not want to frame this as anyone's fault but my own. Back up your work the moment you are able to. But seeing that the app was able to save proxies of the footage did leave me wishing there were some true backup systems in place that matched the ease of use that everything else has been designed with, regardless of how spoiled that makes me sound. Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on the Osmo Pocket, your hopes for the Osmo Pocket 2, and even any other reasons that you can think of as to why I should have gotten a cat. Love you, Wilma. But honestly, regardless of my overall enjoyment with this camera, what's more fascinating to me is seeing how a second iteration could be positioned in this new landscape of smaller ILCs, smaller gimbals, action cameras, and even this new wave of 360 cameras. All I know is that only time, more testing, and a lot more adventure will tell. Thanks for watching. Peace.